Her map slid first, then her footing. Red Echo Canyon opened its stone jaws, and Maeve Carter vanished with a scream. Sunbeat noon folded the high desert into ripples of glare. Maeve Carter, government cartographer, had walked the mesa since dawn, quill tucked behind her ear, notes fluttering in a dust-frayed journal. She chased the rumor of Two Rivers confluence, a fork elders swore ran underground now, its ghost current the only fresh water for 50 empty miles. Hiring a town tracker cost silver she did not have, so she trusted compass and grit. Red Echo Canyon lay black in her notes, uncharted, sacred, avoid. But the ridgeline offered the clearest survey angle. Caution surrendered to exact coordinates. She stepped across a narrow tongue of stone glazed by earlier rain. Sand crumbled. The ledge she trusted sheared away like dried bread. She plunged. Impact shattered silence and bone together. 20 feet below, a shelf caught her, yet a white flash of pain knifed her ankle. Lying on her side, she watched her brass compass spin useless, rain cloud shadows sliding across the opposite wall. She tried to shout but only coughed dust, the sound too small for sky. Wind changed, carried the smell of sage and distant camp smoke. Chaska, lone Apache pathfinder returning from 3 days' hunt, felt the wind and knew it wrong. Spirits seldom mix smoke with thunder season unless warning walk behind. Following the scent over Rimrock, he heard a single human note. Thin, ragged. Taboo or not, he traced it. At the canyon's lip, he knelt in shadow. Below, a woman in a torn green skirt pressed parchment to her chest, as if maps could splint bones. The ledge where she lay ended in air. Below that, 200 feet to Riverstone. No outsider belonged upon forbidden faces, where ancestor glyphs glowed at dawn. Spirits marked them dangerous, claimed wanderers as lessons. But blood debt ran older than any carving. Chaska unwound rawhide rope, whispering to unseen grandfathers, "I will come back clean." He hammered an iron piton into softer shale, hitched the rope, and descended swift, dust spewing from every toehold. Maeve watched with half-lidded shock, seeing first a hawk feather in his hair, then his eyes, quartz dark, unreadable. He spoke English, shaped by tongue rooted deeper than the Union rail. "Ankle?" She nodded, jaw clenched. He touched the swelling, fingers gentle as smoke. His face confirmed a break. Thunder mumbled eastward, promising hard rain. Chaska tore a strip from his cotton shirt, splinted the ankle with 2 juniper slats lashed tight. Maeve hissed but held. He slung her journal over his shoulder, looped the rawhide around her waist and his, and began the slow, grueling climb. Twice the rope groaned. Twice his boots slipped stone, yet his balance held as if guided by memory older than gravity. At the rim, they collapsed beside stunted sage. Rain arrived, a cold sheet that erased heat shimmer and washed red grit from Maeve's hair. Chaska built a travois from dead cedar, binding cross poles with yucca cord. He slid Maeve onto the hide stretcher, tugged its nose loop, and hauled her across the mesa, drizzle needling his shoulders, each step a muted apology to ancestors for stealing a stranger from judgment. Night fell copper behind clouds. He reached the medicine camp, 3 low brush shelters hidden in juniper fold. The eldest healer, Sani, met his eyes. Her gaze flicked from the wounded outsider to the mud on Chaska's hands. Taboo weighed heavy, but blood heavier still. She spat into the fire, calling spirits to witness, and motioned him to lay Maeve near smoking cedar. Under trefoil-scented steam, Maeve drifted between ache and dream. She felt cool paste packed around her ankle, heard runners speak Athabascan syllables above her, like rumbling roses. In waking moments, she caught Chaska outside, staring toward the canyon rim, lips silent but moving, as though bargaining with ghosts only he could see. She wanted to thank him, but language felt thick, apology heavier. 3 dawns later, the swelling calmed. She woke to her map journal on a woven mat beside fresh water. A new page bore charcoal sketches, exact replicas of the petroglyphs she glimpsed while bleeding. Chaska must have copied them at dawn light, the detail too precise for memory's guess. She traced the spiral glyph with trembling finger, realizing he had saved her work as fiercely as he saved her life. She summoned voice. "Why risk the spirits?" He answered without looking up from sharpening his obsidian knife. If a road breaks beneath one traveler, the next must carry them. It sounded less like mercy, more like arithmetic of land and living. On the fifth morning, storm haze lifted. Sani handed Maeve a carved walking stick etched with thunderbird wings, acceptance sealed in wood. Chaska tied a rawhide sling under her broken foot. The elders offered no farewell, their silence a gate both open and closed. Chaska escorted her east until the land dimpled into railroad survey stakes. At the last juniper he stopped, retrieving her compass from a pouch. Its brass case now bore a single new line, an Apache glyph meaning turn back only in dream. He placed it in her palm. Your river is not here, he said. Find other waters. Maeve tucked compass and map into her bag. She tore a page, Chaska's glyph sketches, and pressed it to his chest. So Canyon remembers who heard its warning. He accepted, folding it into deer-hide wallet. They parted with no handshake, just nods, hers stiff with pain, his steeped in something quieter than stone. Miles later, Maeve paused, leaning on the stick. Over horizon, the canyon's rim shimmered deep crimson. She exhaled, realizing she had left one thing unspoken, gratitude with edges sharp enough to cut the silence. She looked back, nothing but sun and flood plain. But she swore the wind carried cedar smoke, reminding her she walked now on borrowed ground. Dawn heat rose off the Kalishi like breath from a kiln. Storm behind her, compass freshly etched, Maeve Carter hobbled east, Thunderbird stick-tapping rhythm into hardpan. Every few paces she paused, testing the juniper splint Chaska had tied. Bark creaked, bone answered. The canyon rim had slipped from sight, but not from nerves. Each gust still smelled of cedar smoke and silent warnings. She reached the telegraph line by noon. 2 tilting poles, 1 wire humming. A maintenance shack crouched nearby, door warped from sun. Inside, a cold stove, tin cup, a wall of penciled times, westbound, eastbound, overdue. She eased onto a barrel, unfurled her journal. Chaska's petroglyph sketches lay crisp. She folded them deeper, as if burial could protect ink. A rider clattered up, Union Pacific livery, sweat haloing his felt hat. He noticed her splint, poured tepid water into the cup, slid it across. Track washouts, he said. Trains idle north of Lawson City, bridges twisted. Stage depots at Black Hollow, he added, pointing south. Then he whistled his mule north, dust-swallowing hoofbeats. 2 days on one leg felt reckless, yet map lines tugged her onward. That night she camped beneath a willow, struck Chaska's flint stick, brewed willow bark tea in the telegraph cup. Pain dimmed, but another ache widened, the need to repay a rope-burn debt. At dawn she entered a salt grass basin where mirage shimmered like glass. A brindle horse closed behind, cavalry saddle stripped of insignia. Maeve's grip tightened on the stick. The rider reined close, mustache gray, smile too ready. Lost, ma'am? His gaze lingered on her satchel. Road to Black Hollow, she said. He offered to guide. She veered west instead. 10 minutes later, hoofbeats trailed. A narrow arroyo split the plain. Maeve dropped into its shade, pressed against dirt, breath shallow. The rider entered, scanning, pistol half drawn. Wind stilled. Maeve hefted a stone. When his back turned, she hurled. Rock cracked stirrup iron. Horse reared. Revolver skittered. She scrambled up slope, heart pounding until sunlight tore open the arroyo wall. His curses faded behind distance. Night found her bruised, fever licking the edges of vision. She sheltered in a half-roofed way station. Wind slipped through board seams, whispering riverless lullabies. She dreamt red cliffs bending like bowstrings, ropes snapping under weight. Morning mercy, a mule-drawn freight cart rattling north. Driver half asleep, hauling grain toward Lawson. Maeve flagged him. He'd passed Black Hollow. She climbed aboard. Hours swayed. The driver whistled tunes, missing notes, and spoke of bounty hunters trailing a woman who stole tribal relics. Her stomach nodded. She asked what relics. Stone drawings, he said, worth gold to museum men. She pressed her bag tighter. They camped under juniper. Stars burned cold. Maeve kept watch while driver snored. An owl hooted, then a softer sound. Twig snapped. She gripped the stick. A shadow stepped forward, palms raised. Moonlight found Chaska's face. He wore a stranger's coat, dust-streaked. In one hand, the black hat of the Arroyo rider. In the other, Maeve's compass, the chain she thought still round her neck. "You dropped repayment," he whispered. She let out a shaky breath, motioned him to the dying fire. He sat in the dark fringe, spoke of bounty riders near the canyon, of rumor twisting sketches into treasure. Spirits stirred. He followed footprints, found the rider, found her compass dangling like bait. Maeve opened her journal, showed the sketches safe. They belonged to stone, not shelves. Chaska nodded, drew a pouch of red ochre, powdered canyon clay. He sprinkled it over the drawings. The lines glowed ruddy, binding paper to earth. Pre-dawn he rose. The driver still slept. Maeve caught his sleeve. "Where do debts finish?" He looked east where light bruised horizon. "When map and road agree," he answered, then slipped into juniper shadow. She retied the compass, tucked the ochre pages deep. As the cart lurched onto rutted trail, the depot roof peaked above the haze. Beyond waited other waters, maybe her confluence, maybe another edge. But now she carried cedar rope scars and red dust to remind her which paths demanded listening first. The freight cart set Maeve down at Black Hollow by mid-morning. 3 weather-warped buildings, a water tower, and a depot platform bleached to splinters. The stagecoach office door hung open. Paint on the sign read, "Temporarily suspended. Bridge out." Wind scrolled dust through the emptiness. The grain driver tipped his hat, muttered luck, and rattled north, leaving her alone with drip echo from the tower. Inside the depot sat one telegraph operator, pale, palms shaking over keys. "Lines south cut last night," he mumbled. "Bandits blamed on Apaches, but rumors smell of bounty dogs." Maeve offered coins for a wire to Denver Survey Bureau. He eyed the splint, the red ochre stains on her map pages, and pocketed the money without change. "I'll send when wire breathes." Translation, maybe never. She limped to the boarding house, really a lean 2-story with porch sagging, kept by Mrs. Flynn, widow whose smile bent stiff against fear. "Room upstairs, $2. Supper extra." Maeve paid, settled her bag, tested timber floors creaking like timid questions. Through the window she saw 5 riders arrive, dust-coated, wide hats, rifles too clean. One wore a blue overcoat missing the left cuff. Chaska had described it as he sprinkled ochre. Maeve's pulse thudded. She descended, cane ready. Mrs. Flynn whispered the men had asked for a map thief, woman, green dress, hurt leg. Maeve breathed once, slow. "I'm a cart supplier, waiting northbound stage," she lied. Widow's eyes softened. Fear recognized fear. She pointed to the pantry, small, dark. Maeve ducked inside while boots thumped boards. Voices drifted. Bounty leader flashing, Banker Hughes's writ. Claim of 500. Mrs. Flynn protested no lodgers matched. Boots prowled hallway. A door slammed. Silence spilled thick. Maeve counted 30 heartbeats, cracked the pantry door. The house empty. But on the porch the lead hunter stood, scanning street. A low whistle sounded behind her. A coded bird call. She turned. Chaska in the backyard, shadow among laundry lines. He motioned. She slipped out rear door, cane muffled in dirt. "Your shadow followed," he murmured, handing a small pouch. "Fresh willow bark, for pain." "Spirits said water guides feet. There is water under this town." He pointed beyond depot to limestone bluffs where cottonwoods clung. "Old drainage tunnels from mine days. They breathe into Lost Arroyo. 2 nights walk north. No hoof prints." Maeve pictured her map. Lost Arroyo snaked toward where 2 dry tributaries met. Maybe her hidden confluence. They moved as dusk bled gold onto clapboard. Mrs. Flynn distracted riders with coffee laced heavy. Maeve saw her through kitchen window, hands steady though cup rattled. She mouthed go. Maeve pressed 2 silver coins against the pane. Farewell weighted by gratitude. Chaska led through tumbleweed lots to a sagged shaft house half swallowed by sand. Inside, darkness reeked of bat guano and rust. He lit a pine pitch bundle. Light skittered across corrugated walls, revealing a narrow adit dropping into black. Ladder rungs iron, slick. Maeve inhaled pain, gripped one-handed, journal tied tight at her belt. 20 feet down the tunnel leveled, air cool, wet. Water trickled along a channel cut by long-gone miners. Chaska splashed ahead barefoot. Maeve followed, stick-tapping stone like nervous Morse. Behind, distant hooves hammered. Bounty riders discovered the house empty. They reached a junction where water pooled chest deep. Ceiling low, timbers bowed. Chaska pressed palm to support beam. Stable enough. Maeve tied her skirt, waited. Cold knifed shins. She bit a cry. In her mind she recited river coordinates. North 32, west 181. Anchors against rising panic. A shout echoed above. Hunters at the shaft mouth. Shots cracked. Sparks showered down the ladder, but fell short. Chaska blew out the pine bundle. Darkness swallowed color. He guided Maeve by elbow through water bending right, then left, each turn losing bullet echoes. Eventually roof opened into natural cavern, lit faint by moon shafts where roofstones had collapsed. Water here formed a silent pond, cattails ghost pale in reflected silver. They rested on a sandbar. Maeve unpacked willow bark, chewed. Bitterness dulled ankle fire. She opened journal, dipped a finger in pond, smeared across map page, mixing with ochre dust. River and canyon joined in brown swirls. Road and map agreeing, she whispered. Chaska's eyes warmed. Dawn seeped gray above sinkhole exit. They climbed out onto sage plateau veiled in low fog. No hoof prints, only coyote pads. Chaska pointed north. Lost Arroyo cut a faint scar through brush. 2 days slow, 1 day hard, he said. Maeve tightened laces on borrowed moccasins Mrs. Flynn had shoved into her hands. Pain stabbed, but hope steadied. That evening they camped beneath a piñon, shared dried corn stewed in canteen cap. Stars bled stories. Chaska named them. Snake's Path, Twin Mothers. Maeve traced constellations against her journal margin, beside glyph copies. Your people's sky, my paper, she murmured. He nodded. Same story, different campfire. Second day's sun-baked fog to mirage. They reached the arroyo, a gravel bed holding only pockets of brackish pools. Yet animal tracks funneled in. Deer, javelina, mustang. Water hid somewhere below. They followed bends until canyon walls narrowed, rose crimson-striped like the forbidden rim where they first met. Maeve's pulse quickened. Confluence should hide at junction of these cuts. At dusk they heard distant roar, not wind. They rounded an alcove. Water burst from limestone seam, clear, frothing into deep basin before vanishing underground again. 2 streams indeed met, one from shadowed crack, one trickling down wall, momentary marriage before burial. Maeve's mouth opened, caught spray. She knelt, filled compass lid, tasted iron-sweet life. Tears blurred glyph sketches. Chaska knelt opposite, palm over water. Spirits keep promise, he said. A rifle clack shattered hush. Bounty leader stepped from rocks, revolver leveled. His left sleeve still missing. End of map, thieves. Behind him 2 men flanked high ledges, repeating rifles aimed. He tossed Maeve's dropped shoe into basin like bait. Banker wants his pay in hides. Chaska's gaze darted. 3 guns, 1 stick, ankle still weak. Maeve whispered numbers. Cliff height, shooter angle, water depth, cartographer's reflex. She unbuckled compass chain, held it glinting. Gold and brass, she bluffed. Leader's eyes twitched. In that blink, Chaska shoved Maeve sideways into pool. Rifles cracked, bullets skipping off water. Maeve submerged, cold seas lungs. Underwater, she glimpsed limestone tunnel mouth behind plume. Escape channel. She surfaced as Chaska flipped the Thunderbird stick end first, striking Leader's wrist. Gun fired wild. Echo boomed down gorge. Maeve grabbed Chaska's arm, yanked him toward the torrent gap. They dove. Current seized, dragging into black. Last she saw was Bounty Leader cursing, reloading, water dulling muzzle flash. The subterranean river spun them through limestone throat, battering rock, then shot them into a cavern lit by sapphire glow. The sky hole miles from ambush. They crawled onto gravel bar, coughing, bruised, alive. Maeve's compass gone, journal soaked but pages clung. She laughed weakly. Sound echoed like many voices agreeing. Chaska pressed a hand to her shoulder. "Debt's finish?" he asked, half-smile. Maeve, shivering, answered, "Road and map agree here." She looked back at the dark chute. Footsteps might still chase water. Outside exit arch, twilight painted mesas violet. No riders yet. They limped into sage shadow, river whisper fading behind, toward a ridge where smoke from some unknown camp curled. Maybe help, maybe another story. They climbed the creek-cut slope on hands and knees, clothes sucking colder than the river still roaring behind them. Maeve's splint held, but every step sent pain like a map pinned straight into bone. Chaska paused often, listening, nostrils flaring. Yet no hoof thunder echoed up the gorge. The bounty men must still be scrambling to find another entrance. The smoke column they'd glimpsed from the cavern, mouth rose steadier now, only a mile ahead, drifting through a saddle between twin mesquite ridges. As dusk bruised into full night, a half-moon silvered the sand. "Likely sheep camp," Chaska murmured. "Navajo or Mex shearers. Strangers, but not hunters." He offered to scout alone. Maeve refused. Her debt ledger, already swollen, refused another entry. They reached a flat dotted by bedroll mounds and a single brush lean-to. Three figures stirred at their approach, stocky herders wrapped in striped seraps, rifles propped, but unfired. Chaska lifted both palms, spoke quick Diné greeting. One herder answered in accented Apache, lowering the weapon. Lantern light revealed lined faces, wary yet softened by seeing the woman's soaked dress and splinted leg. They shared coals and mutton stew so salty Maeve's tongue ached. The eldest herder, called Vicente, described passing two riders near noon, one clean-shaven leader with a ruined sleeve, another with a scarred cheek. They'd asked about a red-dressed thief. Chaska thanked him, traded a small pouch of dried choke cherries for 2 ponies and blankets. Vicente spat into the fire, good omen, and warned of storm building far north. "Thunder with no rain," he said, meaning gunfire. Before first light they rode east, ponies nimble across basalt flats. Maeve's bruises throbbed, but the animal's sway spared the worst pain. Chaska kept them parallel to Lost Arroyo until the banks widened into open valley. There the faint lines of a wagon road emerged. One Maeve had inked weeks ago when rumor said the army planned a supply trail. She frowned. The ruts looked fresh, not abandoned. Mid-morning they crested a knoll and saw why. A canvas-topped convoy, 2 freight wagons, 6 mounted outriders, rumbled south. At its center rolled banker Clayton Hughes himself, recognizable from telegraph sketches Maeve had seen in Black Hollow. Waxed mustache, stovepipe hat. He scanned horizon through field glass, searching. Beside him rode the one-sleeve bounty leader, arm now wrapped in dirty bandage. Hughes traveled with a private army. Maeve's breath iced. "He hired more guns." Chaska squinted, counting rifles. "Too many." "He hunts water as much as you." The wagons, she realized, carried drilling pipes. Hughes meant to claim the hidden confluence beneath the mesas, sell it to the railroad, bearing spirits and maps alike. Rage flickered. River ghosts saved her life. She owed them breath. They shadowed the convoy from the ridge, staying downwind. By dusk, Hughes made camp near a stand of cottonwood, exactly above the limestone seam where 2 rivers kissed before plunging underground. Laborers raised pump scaffolds, guards hammered stakes. Hughes unfurled survey charts almost identical to Maeve's stolen drafts. The red ochre edges proved some agent had copied her journal pages while she slept in Black Hollow. Chaska's jaw set hard. He ripped Earth's story from wrong heart. Maeve touched her pocket where the original glyph pages lay. A plan quickened. Return the stone's voice to silence, collapse drilling before dawn, hide the water again. But 36 rifles argued against frontal acts. They retreated into mesquite shadow, built a thumb-sized fire inside a ring of stones. Under starlight they fashioned tools. Chaska sharpened a limb into a wedge. Maeve molded wet clay plugs around pine-pitched knots. Improvised charges that could jam drill gears if heated and driven into pipe joints. Her cartographer mind redrew the camp. Supply wagon north side, powder kegs likely stored away from fire ring. One spark in right keg would scatter greed like chaff. Wind shifted, coyotes yowled. Midnight settled. They crept down slope. Ponies left hobbled. Maeve limped past sleeping guards, splint thudding dirt lightly. She slid clay plugs into stacked pipes, smearing pitch across threads. Chaska crawled beneath the powder wagon, wedged the sharpened limb between wheel and axle so the first lurch would snap, spoke and topple barrels. They were ghosting out when a guard relieved himself near the drills, lantern bobbing. Light flashed on Maeve's muddy lace. A shout ripped night. Rifles jerked awake. Chaska shoved Maeve behind a crate, loosed an obsidian knife. Lanterns shattered, plunging camp back to dark. Confusion reigned as horses kicked. Men cursed. Hughes's voice barked orders. They sprinted north, but the one-sleeve bounty leader intercepted, revolver gleaming faint. End of map, both of you. Maeve swung her Thunderbird stick. Wood clacked metal, deflecting aim. Gun fired. Bullet tore sleeve, grazed her forearm. Chaska barreled into the man, wrestling weapon down, but another guard leveled a rifle. Before he could fire, an unearthly roar shook the ground, gear teeth grinding pitch-slick threads. Drill towers shuddered, clay plugs heated, popped, steam hissed. The whole rig tilted, collapsing into river vent. A geyser of pressurized water exploded 30 feet high. Guards scattered, shrieking. Spray-soaked gunpowder sacks. Kegs sputtered damp, harmless. Maeve seized Rifleman's distraction, slammed his knee with the stick. He dropped. Chaska disarmed the bounty leader, binding his good hand with own belt. Hughes stumbled toward them, coat dripping, rage blazing. "You're stealing my claim," Maeve laughed, a raw sound. "You tried to steal a river." She grabbed his field charts, tossed them into the plume. Ink blurred, washed down sinkhole. Rising water undermined tents. Wagons bogged. Guards dragged Hughes to higher ground as tower girders groaned, then disappeared into foaming throat. Dawn light broke over chaos. Map thief and Apache standing firm on mud ridge. River reclaiming canyon mouth with thunder applause. Chaska guided Maeve to their ponies. Pain from bullet burn throbbed, but adrenaline steadied her seat. Behind, Hughes screamed lawsuits, bounties trebled. But convoy lay mired, horses hysteric. The hidden river's secret lay safe. Its surface would settle smooth, cave swallowing evidence. They rode north through burnt gold dawn, following washes that soon fed into greener land. At noon they reached a line of grand cottonwoods feathered with bird chatter. Beyond, faint chimney smoke rose where ranchers grazed cattle. Civilization again, but different valley than before. Maeve slumped against the saddle horn, fever scraping edges of sight. Chaska checked the wound, clean, shallow, and smeared yucca sap. They found a deserted line cabin, swept cobwebs, laid her on hay mattress. He fetched spring water, brewed willow bark. Fever dreams caught her, rivers twisting into glyphs, red dust flying like sparks. 3 days she drifted. Chaska slipped in and out, hunting, tending fire, whittling new crutch. On fourth morning she woke to sunlight through chinked boards and the scent of bread. He'd fashioned ash cakes between flat stones. She sat, dizziness gone, gauze crusted but healing. Outside, geese arrowed south, season turning again. Maeve hobbled to doorway. Chaska leaned against fence, eyes on far bluffs. She stood beside, breathing crisp air. "Map and road?" she asked. He touched chest where her glyph page rested. "Almost." She lifted gaze to horizon. The 2 tributary scars glimmered where water now ran above ground. Pressure from collapse had forced more flow topside. Greening sage plains. They had not hidden the water. They had freed it. A flutter of unease. Freed water invited settlers. Railroads with bigger drills. She voiced it. Chaska nodded. "Rivers choose their own trouble." He gestured at a distant valley. "But land also chooses guardians." Maeve followed his line of sight. A cluster of white canvas peaks. Government surveyors staking new coordinates. The story would not rest. "Then we map it true," she said, resolve hardening. She unstrapped journal, now swollen with damp but legible. "Honest lines might save it." Chaska smiled half. "Lines and stories together." He tapped her Thunderbird cane. "Your stick speaks, my knife listens." They turned toward the survey camp. Battle of paper and spoken earth waiting. Behind them, Hughes's fortune sank beneath rogue river mouth. Ahead, a blank page spread wide, calling both mapmaker and pathfinder to draw a future where secrets stayed alive in daylight. The government survey camp stood like a clutch of white eggs against sage-green rise. 5 canvas wall tents, a mess fly, crates of transit scopes and brass chains. Maeve and Chaska reined their ponies short of the perimeter. 2 soldiers lifted rifles. A man in corduroy coat, Chief Surveyor Harland, strode forward, notebook tucked under elbow. Maeve dismounted stiff, splint wrapped with fresh yucca fiber. She produced the federal badge she had not worn since falling from Red Echo Rim. Harlan scanned it, then her swamp-stained dress, the fresh scar along her arm. His gaze slid to Chaska. Dark braids, obsidian knife, blood on belt not yet scrubbed. Tension prickled like cactus. "Ma'am, we logged this valley dry 2 years running," Harlan said. "Now water floods my stakes. Explain." Maeve unstrapped the journal, opened to pages still tinted with canyon ochre, river spray puckering corners. She showed before and after sketches. Fissure, hidden confluence, collapsed rig. Pressure sealed below limestone. Drills breached the seam. River chose surface again. Harlan whistled low. "Who drilled?" "Banker chasing a bounty," she answered. Water answered first. The soldiers shifted. One muttered about claims. Harlan rubbed temples. "If flow's permanent, Washington must rewrite land plats. Railroad rights pause." He looked at Chaska. "Local tribes stake?" Chaska knelt, scooped wet sand, let it run through fingers. "River owns itself. We guard memory." He tapped Maeve's Thunderbird cane. "She draws that memory." Harlan studied them, Apache pathfinder, limping cartographer, and the living water that now lapped at his new stakes. "I'll need proof more than sketches." Maeve pointed upstream where sunlight glittered on fresh current. "Follow." She limped beside Chaska along bank. Harlan, 2 aides and wary soldiers trailed. They reached the mouth of the limestone vent, still belching clear surge, cottonwood leaves spinning in foam. Maeve dipped her compass lid, drank. "Taste iron," she said. Harlan followed, eyes widening. No brackish trace, only cold mountain flavor. Surveyors set instruments, took flow readings. Numbers whispered truth. 40 cubic feet per second, unheard of here. Harlan closed his ledger. Watershed classification, Federal Reserve, provisional. He signed the page, handed Maeve carbon copy. "Your sketches start our petition. You willing to head mapping team?" She hesitated, ankle throbbed. Horizon still held Hughes's shadow. Chaska spoke. "Guardians work in pairs." Harlan nodded, relieved. Apache guide meant smoother approvals. "Supplies roll in 10 days," he said. "Until then, hold ground." Soldiers lowered rifles, curiosity replacing suspicion. One offered bandage for Maeve's arm. Another asked Chaska if obsidian cut truer than steel. Hum of camp softened. But twilight carried dust plumes south. Hughes's buckboard, fewer guards yet desperation sharper. Maeve saw him halt at ruined drill site, hat silhouette stiff. He spied survey tents, wheeled toward riverbank. Chaska placed hand on rifle, but Maeve stopped him. She walked to midstream bar where water riffled shallow, stood barefoot in current. Hughes reined short, boots splashing. "Government now," she said, lifting Harlan's sign sheet. "Reserved for watershed study. Your bounty dies under ink." Hughes glared, eyes red with lost coin. He reached inside coat. Maeve raised the compass, sun-catching brass. Soldiers aimed behind her. Harlan's voice rang. "Sir, withdraw." Hughes's fingers twitched, then dropped. He spat into river that swept it away. "Flow will dry," he growled. Maeve answered, "Not before your anger." Hughes turned, spur rowels whining. Buckboard rolled west, shrinking to memory. No bullet fired. That night campfire cracks mixed with river hush. Surveyors drafted new sheets. Soldiers dozed. Maeve traced fresh contour lines by lamplight. Chaska translating Apache place names. Stone that sings, mouth of dust, thunder father. She wrote them on parchment beside English labels. Dual language, equal ink. At midnight, she stepped outside, found Chaska under cottonwood, carving Thunderbird onto a cedar plank salvaged from Hughes's collapsed rig. "For River's Gate," he said. Together they hammered it where water left rock, naming the spring in both tongues. Dawn-painted mesa edges rose. Maeve laced the black shoes for the first time on dry ground, walked steady across new grass. Stick clicked less, ankle held. Chaska watched, half-smile. She returned, unlaced, set shoes on log among survey stakes. "For next traveler," she said. He placed his obsidian knife beside, binding edge to journey. Supplies arrived on the 10th day. Food crates, canvas, fresh chain. Harlan marched toward capital with evidence. Soldiers remained. Maeve and Chaska pitched a canvas lean-to, apart from tents. River sound their clock. Week by week, they mapped channels, marked sandbars, sketched petroglyphs onto waterproof vellum. Gooseberry seeds Maeve carried from canyon found damp bank soil. Thorn sprouts soon guarded stakes like green sentries. When autumn golded cottonwoods, Washington telegram arrived. Watershed protected, fund approved. Carter appointed lead topographer. Maeve read twice, heart-thudding quiet. She handed cable to Chaska. He traced the typed letters, nodded. Map and road agree. They celebrated with coffee sweetened by juniper syrup. Maeve opened her Grace tin, button, bullet, dried berries, folded gazette, added the telegram. Tin rattled stories into new balance. Evening sky blazed copper. Survey team packed for winter recess. Maeve and Chaska stood on ridge where first smoke had guided hope months ago. Water below shimmered, alive. She extracted the compass, now scarred and dust-marbled, pressed it into clay bank beside cedar sign. "Let river keep its own bearing," she murmured. Chaska pressed over it a stone carved with the Thunderbird. They turned toward the trail. Behind them, conduction of water and wind hummed like low applause, as if the canyon itself thanked the cartographer who listened and the pathfinder who dared break taboo. Did this 5-part journey carry you all the way to the river's new name? Tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment. Which moment cut deepest? The rope climb, the flooded drill, or the shoes left for the next traveler? Your words keep the campfire burning.